Coming up, look out, there's a hot new airplane on the market.
Flying airplanes, saving dogs.
And hanging out Texas style, we visit the Reklaw fly-in. AOPA Live this week begins in just a moment.
Lightspeed Zulu 3, the most preferred, most awarded headset in general aviation. With decades of providing unsurpassed value and unsurpassed functionality, pilots all over the world love flying with Zulu 3. Try Zulu 3 today, risk-free, with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Lightspeed, fly with Zulu.
This is AOPA Live This Week with Tom Haynes and Alyssa Cobb.
Just about everybody who sees it wants it. It's the sleekest production aircraft you've ever seen.
4 seats, 3 doors, 198 knots, 12 gallons per hour. Bonanzas and Cirri, look over your shoulder. Something's gaining on you, and if all goes as planned, it will rip past you sometime next year. AOPA Editor-at-Large Tom Horn gives us an early peek.
There's a new player in the high-performance piston single market. It's the Pipistrel Panthera, and it's being positioned as a Bonanza or Cirrus killer. One look tells you this airplane is stylish and slippery. Its 210 horsepower Lycoming IO 540 pushes it to a 198 knot cruise speed. It's the sleek design and attention to drag reduction that lets those 210 horses work their magic. Like the flush-fitting landing gear doors. There are 4 on each main gear and 3 for the nose gear. Looks like origami. The rake of the windshield and the tight-fitting doors and door seals also keep cabin noise levels and drag way down. The panel features a dual Garmin G3X setup with a GTN 750 NXI GPS and landing gear and flap controls on the glare shield. Under the center console is the emergency gear extension crank handle, and overhead there's a ballistic recovery parachute handle. Now, don't forget the seats. They look like the kind of high-end reclined seats you'd see in a Ferrari or Lamborghini. The attention to detail is obvious inside as well, right down to the rear passenger door.
No problem.
To fly the Panthera, I met up with Andy Chan of Right Rudder Aviation, based in Inverness, Florida. Andy's the sole sales rep for the entire United States. This particular airplane is in the experimental exhibition category. But even so, Pantheras are selling. By later in 2021, the first Part 23 certified Pantheras should be on their way to the U.S. Right now, the airplane you're looking at is the only Panthera in the United States. Takeoffs are absolutely conventional, but you'd better be ready with a lot of right rudder during the takeoff run. Right after takeoff, it was a 1,000 foot per minute climb to our cruising altitude of 6,000 feet with a left turn out of Inverness. Up at altitude, I did see a 193 knot cruise burning 12 gallons an hour at max continuous power. There are no speed brakes, so slowing down takes some planning and patience. And it took a while before we could configure the airplane for landing. Coming back to Inverness, it's 75 knots initially, then 70 before touchdown, and you can bet I'm doing my best to nail the landing. Hey, it's the only Panthera here. The price for a new Panthera, Part 23, is set at $800,000 for now. Panthera turns heads everywhere it goes, and many buyers have bought them without ever flying or even sitting in them. Who knows? The Panthera could be the new normal in general aviation's future. Tom Horn, AOPA Live.
You can read more about the Panthera on our website. Well, Tom, that is one sleek-looking airplane, and I've got to say, Tom Horn must be one of the luckiest guys in the U.S. to be flying the only Panthera that's here right now.
Yeah, I got to say, they brought it by Frederick a couple weeks after Tom did that photo shoot down in Florida. And so I got a chance to sit in it, check it out. It is a beautifully slick airplane, nicely finished. And so it's going to be really interesting to see how that does in the marketplace once they get it certified, hopefully soon. It'll be available in the United States. So
yeah,
great news. And the Slovenian company is now taking orders for its full-size cargo drone. The Pipistrel Nuva V300 takes off and lands vertically and can carry more than 1,000 pounds of cargo. Cargo is loaded on standard pallets that can be hoisted by a forklift. Vertical flight is via 8 battery-powered motors, and a conventional gasoline-fueled engine is used for cruise.
Well, and over in Italy, Tecnam has announced that it's going to join forces with Rolls-Royce to develop an all-electric twin-engine aircraft. The P-Volt is based on the Tecnam P2012. The 9-passenger aircraft is aimed at short and medium-range commuter operations. Now, Tecnam hasn't released any performance specs so far.
NASA has found water on the moon, and they used an airplane to do it. SOFIA, or the Stratospheric Observatory for Infrared Astronomy, is a modified Boeing 747 SP. It has a 106-inch diameter telescope in the back. The idea is that the airplane platform flies above all of the atmospheric water vapor, allowing the telescope a clearer view. Using that system, scientists found concentrated water in portions of the moon. They'll be making more flights to study the lunar water. AOPA talked with the SOFIA flight crew. Hear from them next week.
Well, NAV Canada keeps losing money. That's the private company that operates air traffic control to our north. Now, it was supposed to be the model of how privatization and user fees would be a better way to do things, but NAV Canada just posted a $584 million loss at the end of fiscal year 2020. That's on top of a $100 million loss last year. Now, air traffic is down, and that means less money from fees, of course. Now, NAV Canada has fired some 720 people and raised charges to try to recover. Well, of course, air traffic is down in Canada, the U.S., and elsewhere because the airlines are flying a lot less. The COVID-19 pandemic, obviously. But people are returning to the airlines slowly, and that raises the question, what's the risk of catching the virus in an aircraft? Well, 2 recent studies seem to indicate that if you take the right precautions, you're fairly safe inside most airliners. The Harvard study looked at the risk gate to gate.
What we found is that through a layered approach that combines the ventilation systems and disinfection of the planes and compliance with mask wearing, that combination significantly reduces the risks for people who are flying, even though you're in a very tight environment when you're on the plane.
Well, the military study considered a Boeing 767 interior, and both studies concluded that modern airliners have good airflow and refresh the air every couple of minutes. Recirculated air runs through HEPA filters. Now, many airlines are disinfecting the cabin between flights, so the researchers think it's a risk less than inside an office building or a restaurant. But you should wear a mask at all times and maintain social distance in the airport and jetways. But what about general aviation cabins? We haven't found any studies on that yet. But if the vents are open, we're guessing you're getting pretty good air exchange. Still, we suggest you follow CDC guidelines and wear a mask if your passengers aren't in your family pod.
AOPA continues to fight against the FCC approval of the Ligado 5G wireless network. It simply poses too great a threat to GPS navigation. And we're not alone in the fight to protect that vital resource. 78 organizations from a whole cross-section of industries are sending a letter to the Senate Commerce Committee urging them to protect GPS. You'll recall back in April, the FCC approved the Ligado network to operate in the radio spectrum's low-frequency L-band. That is used by many commercial and government services. And since the FCC gave Ligado the go-ahead, L-band users have continued to criticize Ligado's technical work, poking holes in their work designed to assure regulators that adjacent signals including GPS navigation, will be adequately protected from Legato's relatively high-powered signals bleeding over. We'll keep you updated on this important issue. It's a heartbreaking problem. Animal shelters in the southern U.S. are overflowing with dogs, while in the north, families face a long wait to adopt one. One high-flying doctor found the solution using general aviation. AOPA's Jennifer Nahn has the story of Dog is My Co-Pilot.
Out of tragedy comes hope. Dr. Peter Rourke started Dog is My Co-Pilot to save rescue animals after he faced a life-changing loss.
Started Dog as My Co-Pilot in the summer of 2012. It was right after my wife had passed, and I left my orthopedic surgery practice and just grieved, and I just had a mutual friend reach out to me and say that Meg would want me to be happy.
And what made him happy? Rescuing animals. So he looked for a way to help.
Well, I flew down to Merced, California, which is in the Central Valley. It changed my life. We walked through the local animal facility where they were euthanizing over 90% of the animals that came through the door. It was just a slaughter.
After that visit, Dr. Rourke started flying animals from Merced to the north in his Cessna Stationaire. In the beginning, he flew about 1,000 animals a year, but he wanted to do more, so he found an old Cessna Caravan to fit more animals.
So I went up, looked at the aircraft, and I looked in the inside, the ceiling is coming down and everything, and I said, perfect, this is perfect, because the dogs don't care. I mean, I care what's under the cowling, and so we jumped from flying 1,000 animals a year to over 3,000.
And Dr. Rourke has now saved nearly 17,000 animals.
You know, they have the golden ticket. They're out of the kill facility. They're on their way to their forever home and their forever people.
Dr. Rourke now has other volunteer pilots to help him and the caravan fly routine rescue routes from the south to the north. But after all the flights, the most rewarding part for him is knowing that the work he's done is saving the animals and changing the lives of the people who adopt them.
Where a dog can get into a household and really change the dynamics of the house, that is such a feel-good thing. And I can't be happier being part of that solution in creating a happy home. And I've often thought that a house really doesn't smell like a home without a wet dog smell. That's what makes me happy.
Jennifer Nahn, AOPA Live.
Now, if you want to help save dogs, Dr. Rourke has some tips. Of course, you can adopt a pet of your own or volunteer at your local animal shelter. You could fly rescue animals yourself or donate to a nonprofit like Dog is My Co-Pilot. So I have to tell you, Alyssa, I've done a couple of those flights. We have 4 rescue pets at our house, 2 cats, 2 dogs. And one of them we actually flew out of state down south to pick him up. And previously, one of our previous animals, we also used the Bonanza to go pick her up in New Hampshire. So anyhow, I've also done a couple of other pet rescue flights. And it is very rewarding, great use of an airplane. And the pets are super appreciative, I got to tell you.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Well, when we come back, business jet interior design is part art, part science.
And check out this perspective. We'll be right back. Well, welcome back. It's a Texas tradition. For 35 years, pilots have been gathering at the Flying M Ranch in Reklaw. AOPA's Jurka Marusik was there this year.
It was absolutely epic. I gotta say it's one of my new favorites, partly because that's all it was. It was a bunch of people, no matter what they fly, how they fly, not sorted by who makes the airplane or not sorted by who wants to learn what. It was all sorted by who wants to sit around which fire and talk flying, mostly talking flying and, checking out some of the guests that brought their RV. It was awesome, and it was your local camp out with a couple of airplanes, just sized up to Texas way.
Well, that looks like a lot of fun. I'll find out more and make your plans for next year. I might have to do the same. The information's on the Reklaw Fly-In website.
Well, that sounds cool, and this sounds cool too. A unique perspective on the tail feathers of a Piper Cub. Pilot Joe Costanza wanted to study and improve his footwork and needed a way to see exactly what he was doing while landing. He combined a 360 camera with a custom mount from Flight Fix that attaches to his tail wheel spring, and this is what he got. The camera view follows his landing down to Flying W Airport in Lumberton, New Jersey. It provides him with feedback he can't otherwise get.
Because it's one thing to actually talk about, how my footwork on the rudder and center line and stuff like that. And then when I saw it like that, I was able to see my footwork, and I was able to see if I was like pumping back and forth on the elevator. And what's really cool is you can overlay the GPS data with it. So you can look at your airspeed, your altitude. And when I did that angle I was doing slips, and I noticed that my speed was increasing by like dramatically. So then I went out and did slips again, and I kept in the back of my mind, hey, don't let the nose drop so much. So it was, it's pretty wild what you can actually do with that stuff.
Joe says the system will keep you honest, and that looks true. Hey, a World War II airplane needs your help. The PBY Catalina flying boat Miss Pickup is stranded at the famed Loch Ness, the lake in the Scottish Highlands. The airplane ran into mechanical problems after landing on the lake, and now one of the engines needs to be swapped out. The airplane was safely lifted out of the lake, but now more funds are needed for all the logistics involved with repairing the airplane in a remote location. The owners fear the airplane could be significantly damaged if they can't fly it back home to Duxbury, Cambridge before the harsh winter weather kicks in. You can donate on GoFundMe. Just search for Rescue Miss Pickup from Loch Ness.
Well, business jets are powerful tools, time savers, productivity enhancers, and point-to-point logistics machines. But they also can be a deep expression of personality, taste, and style. AOPA Editor-at-Large Tom Horn takes a look at what goes into thinking through and building out some of the snazziest cabins in the world.
An airplane's cabin can influence a lot of buying decisions. So, what makes one interior more special than another? Inspired design leadership for one. Check out these high-concept Embraer designs, applied here to the Lineage 1000. Who heads up ventures like these? Embraer's Jay Beaver.
Entering into the aerospace industry, I spent prior to that 15 years at Ford Motor Company designing and engineering automobiles. That became an attraction for aircraft manufacturers wanting more automotive-like execution. So I think the biggest advantage I've been able to bring into the industry, especially at Embraer, is the fit and finish piece of it. When we buy a bunch of different parts or systems from our vendors and we expose it all as one holistic piece, it ends up looking like a shotgun blast of miscellaneous suppliers' parts stuck to the side ledge. And so that's what we were able to achieve now with this aircraft. We made sure that everything on the interior felt like it was shrink wrapped to the maximum package possible for the occupant, not for the systems. Something that ultimately would enable the craftsmanship story, which is the fun execution piece of it, but really the ergonomic piece of the butler with wings, kind of how is the airplane serving you, giving you things that you need when you need it versus you serving it. That's why we decided to actually put the control systems underneath side ledge lids so we don't have to see them when we don't need them. But at the same time, developed an upper technology panel that would now be placed into the valances that would allow us very simple control. One, we could reach up and turn our reading light on. Two, we can turn our table light on. and 3 are ambient halo light for a mood effect. But when we're done touching the screen, it goes right back to a static mode of showing you where you are in flight. So when we're talking to each other in our aircraft and the conversation is going really good, we're sensing we have an hour left and we're multitasking in our brain, not really paying attention like we should because we're thinking, do I have time for another glass of wine? Because I'm feeling so good about this conversation because I need to sober up at the same time by the time I land. All that's happening. But I figured all that out without even breaking eye contact with you and how much time I had left because I saw where the bird was on the arc in flight on that screen above your head in my peripheral vision. That was a butler serving me information, allowing me to make decisions naturally as I'm having conversation.
There's what Beaver calls Embraer's DNA, a pervasive brand identity that's transmitted by its design elements.
And so the very first pillar, let's say, of that DNA is about ergonomics, and that's all about comfort. So if you're not comfortable, you'll judge it as being wrought with inequity, no matter how good it looks. If it's not comfortable, you'll hate it. The second piece was craftsmanship. So how well are the parts put together? And it's not just sturdy, but are there opportunities to create watch-like detail? The same reason we'll wear a wristwatch today when we can get our time on our phone. We appreciate the beauty of complexity. The third piece of that DNA plan ultimately really should be the first. That's the customer. But that's being design. So we take design and put it last because ultimately the customer should be the designer. And that's where we've created these zones of personal application underneath our side ledge lids. So, well, you're gonna see the 3 layers of material, wood, metal, and leather. But when you open it, you're gonna see wood, metal, and leather. That new leather is now your accent color. It becomes fun. It becomes worthy of being open and left open because the utility that you want in flight is there, but at the same time, you're being treated to this jewelry box-like effect that can all be put away.
In short, an airplane isn't just a means of travel. It's a psychological environment designed for an optimal experience. If it's designed properly, that is. Tom Horn, AOPA Live.
Wow, Tom, that looks slick, and it's neat. As pilots, we're focused on the engine, the airframe, and all the attention to detail that goes into that. But to get to see the flip side of how folks are thinking about and designing, pristine pieces of works of art for the passengers in these business jets.
Yeah, it is pretty phenomenal, the level of detail that they go to and sort of the environment that you get put in what otherwise is an aluminum tube flying at 40,000 feet, and the comfort that they can bring and that attention to detail. Pretty amazing. Yeah.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah.
Well, that's it for the show this week. Thanks for letting us connect with you for a while.
And you can stay connected anytime by email and click like and subscribe on YouTube, and we'll see you next week.
There are many important things to consider before purchasing an aircraft. Let the experts at Aerospace Reports help guide you through the process. We combine expert knowledge with our long-standing commitment to personalized customer service to perfect your transaction. Learn more at aerospacereports.com.